Hello. So, this will be the last one. We're just going to do piklopedia. Probably, if we have some time, do the last few of the the challenges. I took down Louis' comments about the creatures he encountered. The content was a bit shocking, but it's type of love, I think. You can take a look if you like. Alright, so Louis' quests don't unlock his thing for the piklopedia. I don't really know what his quest will do. Sure thing, let's picture the herds and flocks of wild animals. So, let's do his ones, and then we'll do Olimar's, and then we'll do Louis. Because as you can see, Louis is just obsessed with food. What's the dog doing? I might just refight some of the bosses as well. This massive gout of flame blowing out from this gigantic body with astonishing force, enough to make you think of a volcanic eruption. This critter exhibits the power and fury of nature. One can only truly be overwhelmed by the sight of the titanic blowhog's raging fire torrent. This creature blows out an unending gale of freezing blizzard-like winds. Talking about lung capacity, with this hulking darling around, we could cool down the whole hot summer days in an instant. Although it does exhale carbonic acid, might not be such a good idea after all. Uh-oh, stinky bug! Whoa, that reeks. Reeks so bad, the uncouth little stinkers are always passing gas whenever they... and whatever. But that also means that they are easy to track down. Of course, nobody could stand to get close if they do find one. It's a brilliant defense mechanism. If you lie down and look up while this hulky creature is walking over, you'll be treated to an impressive view of the gigantic round body soaring past you like an orbiting planet. Of course, you may be squished flat by one of its massive feet and becoming a star yourself. Look at him just vibing there. This cautious critter moves his fits and starts. When it does, the muddy liquid it transports and absorbs sloshes around, slosh, slosh, splush. If you could observe the unique anatomy up close, I have no regret, even if I might be splattered with mud. Speculative wings have a lot of fine powder on them, built up in the many different layers. It gives them a sparkling yet complexity in the depths. This little follow powder also has uses of ultra spicy spray for a zesty effect. Is this actually... no, it's not the same species. I don't remember reading this thing. Maybe I did though. Gonna guess I did read it. Come, let's ponder the puff storm. This devious little being releases spores that have hallucinogenic effects on pikmin. At first inhaled, the affected sprouts will be drawn closer, then they breathe in more and more of the confused inducing spores. Soon they'll begin to think of nothing but the puff stool as they jump around. Boing, boing, boing. See how it toddles and bounces on its wee little footsies as it goes from stool for a stroll, scattering extremely toxic spores along the way. This creature is walking nuisance, but there's an odd kind of charm to its bothersome nature that makes it hard to leave alone. The mouth on the top of its head is somehow chic and audacious at the same time. Combined with the way that it carries its claws like it's ready to give you a trim, this cutie looks like the charismatic Butacan of a creature world, though the way it tosses its food in the air shows rather poor etiquette. It pops up out of the mud, often with no warning, to say hello. With its body like a hose and a big round mouth, it scatters its sates its appetite by feeding on the mud itself. Its 6 bright eyes mean that it's surely to see the fondness we have for it 6 times better. I hope it eats up all that unending affection. What's the dog doing? A coat that dense and rough like a primal forest. A stench like wet canine and shockingly toasty body temperature. Clearly a dog in every sense. The long history of the dogs being companions, we can rarely rely on to trigger an instinctive reaction, though our entire body, if it were left alone on the planet with this massive cutie, would it be content? Although initially identified as juvenile bulbob, groundbreaking new research indicates that this creature is in fact a member of the breadbug family, a close relative to breadbugs. It escapes predation by mimicking the unique adaptations of a bulbob's crimson coloration, allowing the species to safely commingle with such effective adaptation and obfuscation by prey species is rare, indicating this is a very clever creature and it is a master of mimicry. The bulbob larvae, after its first molt, due to its pale coloration, it has assumed to be a mimic when it was first discovered. It was later confirmed that it is a true dwarf bulbob. To avoid predation from adult bulbobs, it spends the majority of the daytime hours hiding underground. It becomes more active at night when its paler coloration is more difficult to see. In this state, it is difficult to discern what species of bulbob any given juvenile may be, but appearances alone is only after bulbob's second molt that they start to display more distinguishing species characteristics. The large organism has a familiar mandibles and crushing carnal morphology of a grub dog family, as well as the characteristic bulging eyes. As with most grub dogs, the creature's caninium counterparts half of the length of its body. Showing a scarlet abdomen with white spots, this creature is primarily nocturnal, which choosing to prey upon smaller creatures returning to their nests. Occasionally classified as a spotty bulbob, further research has reclassified the species as the basic bulbob species of the varied colours have recently been discovered, but academies are divided into the 2 rival camps over how to handle their classification. During reproduction, after an egg is fertilized by sperm, any excess of chromosomes are usually discarded through the process called meiosis, but occasionally this process fails to occur, and a bulbob individual will develop irregularly due to this chromosome anomaly. Specimens like this one are stronger than average bulbobs and can exhibit more aggressive behavior. However, they are not able to procreate, as they will never reach sexual maturity. Just as dwarf red bulbobs mimic the appearance of a bulbob, it is theorized that this variant mimics the orange bulbob. Must also exist. Recent fieldwork has confirmed this theories. because it's another bread bug. This bulbob species boasts a garnish colour pattern, with deep orange body and black spots. The orange bulbob's yellow bloodshot eyes make it clear that this bulbob is excessively edgy and high-strung, making it easy to wake from deeper sleep than other species of the grub dog family. The spotty bulbob larva is the third stage of development. This creature's body structure is near maturation. However, unlike mature bulbobs, it has yet to claim its own parental root, and thus it depends upon the parent for guardian direction. A mid-sized species with the grub dog family, the spotty bulbear's unique feeding habits set it apart from the other grub dogs. It patrols a set path searching for prey instead of passively feeding on creatures that wander into a limited territory range. When engaged, a spotty bulbear habitat, it is wise to proceed with extreme caution until the bulbear's patrol path can be identified. I thought my cat was out scoring the door, but it's actually other people making a fucking ton of noise. Much like more mature specimens, juvenile frosty bulbobs is also to carry ice on the ectodermis and promotes excellent extraordinary freezing. However, they take an entire night to regenerate the ice, which is why they often are accompanied by adults. Juveniles display a small number of spots than adults, causing some to believe that this was actually a species of mimicking bread bug. However, the results further analysis proves that this is not the case. A bulbob with large amounts of ice and frost covering the midsection. It is unusual to find the ice such as this attached to a living organism, as it's cold enough to freeze small animals and regenerate any ice mass that breaks off. Bodily extrusions of highly flammable wax substance interacts with the cell structure of the grub dog's skin, causing a chemical reaction that produces a highly hot temperature. The skin benefits from the spongy cell structure that diffuses the surface, protecting the creature's inner organs. Due to the astonishing amount of heat produced by this species, it should be observed with great caution. Instead of gnashing jaws usually found on the relative species, it uses its extendable viscous tongue to catch prey. Even before it opens its mouth, it's recognized by its tempered snout and black spots against the white back. Some theorize that it evolved its long tongue to snatch prey drawn to high-blooming flowers, but recent findings confirm that was until its second molt. This creature feeds with teeth much like other grub dogs species. It will begin to use its tongue once it reaches adulthood. As the name implies, this creature is a bulbob in its early stage of development. Its distinctive bulbob coloration has yet to appear, but it already exhibits other unique bulbob characteristics. It's capable of hunting nourishment independently without the help of its parents. Initial observations place doubt on the capabilities of the grub dog family to support a strong ant or bee-like structure, but recent studies have shown that the family is capable of such complex for brief periods when certain external parameters are met. The egg sac of the large female grub dog within a given range swells dramatically proportioned in results to environmental changes such as sudden depletion of prey species. These females temporarily take on the role of pack matriarchs. Also, if the pack formation, it has been observed that nearly all males not involved in species reproduction undergo natural sex changes. The characteristics of such species are quite intriguing indeed. The largest member of the grub dog family, it is naturally found buried underground. The camouflage allows the predator to surprise small creatures using its long apprehensile tongue to capture prey. An emperor bulbob of extreme advanced age, it will no longer display the pack behaviour commonly exhibited by younger members of the species. Instead, as an individual ages, it leaves the herd to exhibit more solitary behaviour. It feeds using... Did I miss some? Yeah, I did. The thick hide and agile hump gives the organism a distinct rock-like quality. During the rainy season, moss grows freely on the hump, making it nearly impossible to distinguish this lethal predator from the stone. Commonly exhibited by members of a younger age. It leaves the herd to exhibit more solitary behaviour. It feeds using its strongly developed legs and leaps upon crushing its prey with speed disproportionate to its body size. It's determined the age of any given species. You can count the rings on the hide, calcified in its form from the carapace. Rotting wing forms roughly 1 year. The creature lived. Individuals with over 100 age rings have been discovered so far. The sovereign bullback's back is often covered in moss and petrodies. On a few occasions, specimens have been found with a rare species of mushroom called bulborol growing on its back. This creature expels volatile phosphorus compound from its snout that combusts upon contact with air. This fire-breathing ability is dependent upon the air to fuel the ratio in its mouth. Catalyst reaction within expelled compounds and purification of the compound. Thus, it is highly unlikely as such a complex process could cause the spontaneous explosion of a fallen blowhog. This process is also perhaps avoid risk of spontaneous combustion in the belly of the living specimen. However, one should still treat a fiery blowhog with great care during transportation. A variant species of the fiery blowhog, the watery blowhog, lacks the several genes necessary for production of fire-producing catalysts, and thus expels jets of non-flammable liquid. The substance appears to have only recently evolved, however. The hereditary traits of this variant are dormant and highly robust, so the population is rapidly increasing. The species' capability to condense atmospheric carbon dioxide within an organ called a cold sac. The cold sac creates dry ice and its vapors are expelled as icy breath. A close relative to the species, the fire blowhog, can keep its internal body temperature from rising because of phosphorus compounds expelled, only igniting when making contact with the air. In contrast, the snowy blowhog maintains internal body conditions below freezing, and in other internal organs are protected by a thick layer of fat and extractional feeding that occurs within the cold sac. Due to hormone abnormalities, fiery blowhog specimen has grown to an irregular size. As a result, its mouth and organs that regulate the fire-breathing ability are significantly larger, so the firepower on this specimen greatly exceeds that of normal counterpart. The fire it produces is actually so strong that the stress it places on the creature's internal organs is magnified, thus reducing the overall lifespan. The species is also unable to reproduce. The species is actually a snowy blowhog that lethally expels icy air. However, it's grown to a gigantic size thanks to a economic anomaly. Unlike the Titan blowhog, this condition does not sentence the blizzarding blowhog with a shorter lifespan. In fact, its life is actually much longer than that of the average snow blowhog. The organs that produce the dry ice are enlarged in the species, perhaps in order to make production more effective. Similar to an ancestor species of the fiery blowhog, this creature has a pair of sharp tusks that it uses to charge enemies with vigorous violence. It's demonstrated its aggressive nature when it pursues the prey and when it attacks by predators of its own. And in any case, the latter, the tusky blowhog will attack its attack, causing them to balk while it can dash away safely. The species also has an extremely sharp sense of smell, which it uses to detect pheromones like the sense of its favorite food underground, mushrooms. The species is a lithopod larvae. Lithopod-like flint beetles use internal metabacteria to aid chemical digestion. The metabacteria can only survive in certain environments, such as within the body of certain insects, so lithopod larvae do not contain any metabacteria immediately after hatch them. Larvae feed on partially digested or regurgitated by mature lithopods, ensuring that the larvae obtain the metabacteria they would not normally have acquired. Males of the species are known to have a horn-like blowhole. When females reach maturity, the blowholes close and they lose their ability to launch rocks. At the start of the breeding season, the females lay eggs on rocks and rocks launched by the males. The rocks then become food for the growing larvae. Though once mistaken for an adult armored cannon beetle, the species is actually a neutralized non-native species that migrated here from another continent. The horned cannon beetle can breed with adult armored cannon beetles, but only about half the eggs will actually hatch. This hybrid species has the potential to severely pollute the gene pool, furthermore exhibiting aggressive territorial behavior, sometimes launching boulders at young armored cannon beetles, which has driven the latter species to the verge of extinction. Like other members of the lithopod family, its internal bacteria are specialized for forming ice compounds and abundant moisture, which can then expel as projectiles. It technically doesn't really rely on cold temperatures to create the ice, which is formed by pressurized internal fluids that act as coolant. When the projectiles rapidly expand, they absorb the abundant heat, lowering the temperature enough for the moisture in the air to freeze. Upon reaching maturity, the blowhole on the head closes, leaving in place the blowhole on its head closes, leaving it in its place the pointed crest of an Arctic cannon beetle shell. In order to get enough food in the nutrient-deficient environments, adult specimens start breathing through their mouth, then expelling some excess that they prostate the absorption, causing the species to lose territorial competition with the armored cannon larvae, thriving in colder environments. Though this beetle has increased suction strength, it must ventilate via its spherical on the abdomen and open its shell to avoid rapid body inflation. The males of the species are purple and black creatures with tapered mouths, while the females are lighter in colour and lack the armoured exoskeleton. As with most madablas, these creatures have regressed to the point where they have lost both legs and wings. They can be seen crawling around in the ground and believed to feed on vegetable extract from the colligated fluids of expired pikmin. The species is the male shear grub. They have lost both their legs and wings. Males burrow in the soft soil and wait to ambush small creatures that pass by. The beast's mandibles can be dangerous, making creatures such as pikmin easy prey. The mama shear grub will typically molt when it reaches maturity. Then it will dig itself into the ground to prepare to lay eggs. However, certain types like this specimen exhibit newer territory and retain their appearance of a juvenile of the species. Oh. If the specimen location's abundance of food source, they won't leave it. Sometimes they will stay at the spot for years, steadily growing to a gigantic proportion like this one. Though the specimen has the looks of a juvenile, it is fully developed reproductive ability and can achieve impressively high birth rates. Its offspring, however, are the same size as typical shear grubs. Usual for the genus, flying mandibulars have retained their wings. However, only the adult males of the species can fly. Females of the species spend most of their lifespan underground. They do emerge for a period after maturation to spawn, but they never metamorphosis. The sensory hairs growing on this creature's orange body segments can detect body temperature, movements, and carbon dioxide levels. It clings to prey with its claw-like front legs and sucks the blood through a pointed proboscis. Researchers found that the shear flea can store energy created while contracting its bellows-like body. In its elastic proteins located at the root of its hind legs allow it to rapidly jump very high. Its reproductive rates are rather explosive. A small group of egg-laying females can boom into a population of over 100 in a month's time. Others within the family wear their shells on their bellies, but this one shell functions more like a helmet. Its wings have atrophied into uselessness, so it appears to burrow beneath the ground and pop up and pierce prey with its needle-like proboscis and drain them of body fluids. Juvenile justomites remain underground for years, or even decades in some cases. It's a close relative of the original burrowing nit species, but this variety of jasmite still has use of its wings. Oddly, it still makes it a habit below ground and employs the same tactics of laying in wait before emerging to strike. The helmet protecting its head is functionally as hard as steel due to the waxy secretion in the pores that absorb and redirect shocks it sustains. Scapidid originally lived on the ground, sporting poorly developed residual wings. The species developed enlarged antennas that can be used as makeshift wings. Sapilids are attracted by the sight of large groups of pikmin in cavalry formation and will swoop down to seize them. However, scapilids do not eat pikmin. They will drop any seized pikmin after a short time. The reason for this behavior is unknown, but I look forward to further research in the area. The skittering leaf is a relative of the pond skater that sheds its wings and adapted to life on the ground. With no residual traits of the airborne past, the skittering leaf can neither fly nor skitter across the surface of the water. The wings have since evolved into a leaf-like structure on its back, which serves to hide the skittering leaf through mimicry. It appears quite effective, as few predators can see through this clever disguise. The skittering leaf variant resembles a dead leaf. Its legs have developed into specifically in ways. The front claws capture prey, while the flat hind legs are suited for running and swimming. Its highly tuned sensors keep it still for any creature, but pikmin, once it gets its claws on its prey, it doesn't easily let go. Recent research has revealed that its camouflage has a second purpose, beyond hunting. Scavengers are fooled by its disguise into carrying its eggs, therefore expanding its population. Members of the dweevil family are known to carry objects of astounding size on their backs, then mimic them. The fiery dweevil is one species of the family. Generally, this is a very gentle insect that feeds on grass nectar, but when faced with danger, the fiery dweevil ignites flammable internal gases, juts out its jaw and spews scorching flames. As this clearly makes it a rather dangerous insect, it's best not to linger directly in front of them. Members of the dweevil family are known to carry objects of astonishing size on their back, mimicking them. The anode dweevil is one of such species in the family. They seem to have no particular preference for objects they carry on their back, as they will carry anything they can lift. They boast an internal organ that generates electrical charges, which the anode dweevil releases when it senses danger. The hydrodweevil is a member of the insect family known as the mimicking objects by carrying them on their back. Several points of difference with the other members of the species have been confirmed, such as the body colour and behaviour patterns, but none of these suggest a major deviation in the creature's genetic structure. This makes it clear that it is a relative of the family. When attacked by enemies, the hydrodweevil spits out bodily fluids in response. Spacesuits corrode and oxidize when they come into contact with this liquid. Dweevils have varied body colours in representation of their feeding habits. Each species feeds on different types of plants and small animals, so the symbiotic bacteria that creates their pigment differ as well. The ice blood weevil lives in cold habits and spews frigid gas, so the working of the symbiotic bacteria are dulled and is retained in its natural colour, which is white. It's been confirmed that most temperate climates where food that the fiery dweevil eat is readily available, the icy dweevil's coloration is much peachier. Venom dweevil is one member of the dweevil family, which is known for its mimicking objects and carrying them on their back. The insect often carries the carcasses of other life forms on their back. Apparently, this is not for the purpose of transporting them as food, but instead another example of their mimicking behaviour. The venom dweevil produces two different chemical compounds within its body, which form poisonous gases when mixed and expelled. The gas is used for only for self-defense. The spider-like creature has a distinctive yellow stripes on its back, black carapace. It spins webs in high-traffic areas and waits for prey to blunder into them. Unlike the relative of the arachnorb and dweevil families, it's ambisexual and has 8 legs. So theorize that its gyroid is meant to aid in its gyronadory is meant to aid in reproduction, though of course it can't reproduce on its own. There is another theory that this species is in fact two organisms of opposite genders stuck together, but since no one has ever found a four-legged single-sex specimen, that remains speculative. A shaggy longlegs that had lost its hair. It has a similarity to a beady longlegs, but it doesn't secrete wax from its exoskeleton, thus lacking its cousin's unique patterning. The absence of wax also allows small insects to climb the legs without slipping. Its central orb splits horizontally, but researchers have yet to determine the significance of this difference. A species of the arachnorb family fused with machinery at a crucial point in maturity process, giving it the ability to fire energized bursts from the launcher beneath its orbital torso. However, the man-at legs itself is not in control of this weapon. Instead, the mechanical portion of the structure appears to automatically acquire and attack targets. The man of legs has a gentle distribution as a member of the arachnorb family. It has no natural enemies. It is practically difficult to understand why this species would develop such an awesome offensive capability, leading to rumours among the scientific community that it was a machine that approached the arachnorb and posed the symbiotic relationship. The species has some remaining organic internal organs, but its carapace and eyes are made up of inorganic materials. All 19 of its eyes are actually photoelectronic centers that the species uses to precisely locate its prey. The gases emanated from its posterior of its first leg joints include a chemical substance that, after making contact with another organism's brain, temporarily control the organism's actions. The groovy long leg uses this natural phenomenon called the endless dance to make its prey jump between its legs while it moves around in a bizarre rhythm. The entire interaction seems odd for a living organism, but the line between organic and inorganic on this planet is not always clear. The species is representative of an insect hybrid that uses electricity in addition to geolocine energy. For another, difficult to confirm due to their microscopic size, tiny hairs on the creature's legs cause friction and generate electrical charges. The electric charges it possesses by this creature's eternal battery structure, then stored as an electric field. As the field reaches critical levels, surplus electricity is emitted, resulting in a low voltage current that is transmitted between specimens. It can shock other creatures in the immediate vicinity. Considering the process, it can be summarized that large interest pack behavior is not so much for the synergy effect of producing as a pack, as it is an advantage for the most effective means of group preservation. Flint beetles are known to hide in the grass until approached, at which point they will jump out and scurry around. This creature keeps undigested food pellets in its stomach to sustain them throughout the winter, but given the right stimulus, they will spit them out. Recent research has revealed that these pellets are enveloped in a membrane that seals and preserves them in a sterile, airtight environment. If kept at room temperature, it seems that the pellet's membrane will keep its contents fresh for up to 6 months. The membrane may be made from the same substance that gives the exoskeleton of the flint beetle its beautiful sheen. While life forms that exude foul musks to warn of danger are not rarer, the doodlebug is the only species known to release flatulence when actively above ground. Interestingly enough, since it merely releases the gas created by the decay of the contents of the creature's intestines, it does not have a special musk-producing organ. This means this creature is in fact merely flatulating. Spectral analysis of the rank gas indicates that the contents not only methane but hydrogen sulfate as well, making this flatulent a grade 8 biohazard. The variants of beetle consume substrate materials due to the fact that it rarely emerges above ground. Signs of this particular specimen are extremely rare. While minerals are the beast's primary source of food, the beetle itself does not have an ability to digest these minerals. Instead, the metabolic bacteria living inside the beetle's stomach chemically break down these materials. The resulting purified metal is discharged by the rare metals such as gold and platinum crystallizing onto the iridescent glint beetle's shell, resulting in the beautiful luminescent shine. These parasitic insects feed on the eggs. Upon reaching maturity, they excrete a special pheromone that attracts females of a particular species, enticing these females to swallow the mermaid's whole. Pikmin, however, seem to dislike the scent. After entering the host female's body, the mermaids lay their eggs inside the host's egg just prior to the host spawning. Its main offensive strategy is to launch a crystal it carries on its back, otherwise it's completely defenseless. In most circumstances, it's a peaceful herbivore whose diet consists primarily of moss. When in danger, however, it wastes no time defending its territory by breaking small rocks and hurling them at threats. In order to ensure that it has a steady supply of rocks in which to defend itself, it shares its habitat with calcified crushblad larvae so that it can make use of the shells that they cast off. It skates on water at high speeds. Thanks to its tiny hairs on the tips of its feet, these hairs are coated in anti-hydraulic substance to minimize friction against the water's surface. Its long proboscis functions as a straw so it can take in water which it stores in a reservoir in its head, as well as its spouts as a weapon against small insects. While taking in water, it also takes in microscopic plankton, which meaning the primary means of defense is also a feeding mechanism. A subspecies of the skittering skate that adapted to life in muddy wetlands. It uses its straw-like proboscis that inserts in the inside of which is packed with densely grown hairs to capture any plankton living among the mucky water and filter out everything else. When an enemy approaches, it will threaten them by shooting out a mucky substance. This is a combination of muddy water and gastric juices. Has a highly viscous, so it can essentially bury pikmin and a lot of other stuff in dirt. It's remarkably similar to the unmarked brethren, but the telltale wing patterns lone pair of hind legs give away. It sticks to its own habitat for the most part, though. It may fly away to reach a flower or escape a ball blacks. Will soon return to its home. The white variety gathers no nectar, but sometimes may be found carrying raw materials. The primary morphological difference from the spiculids is the eye-like spots on the hind wings. When crossbreeding with red spiculids, the offspring has a 25% chance of inheriting the spots of the orange on the orange-coloured wings. Would this count as a new species? Its red wings have several spots, unlike the lone spot on each wings of the yellow variant. The scales contain trace amounts of ultra-spicy flakes, which are mixed into the saliva as it sucks up the nectar from the flowers. This combination of flakes and saliva and nectar are refined into ultra-spicy nectar inside the creature, which it uses as a growth supplement for its eggs. Despite this, reproductive capabilities are quite low. It is for this reason that the red variant fetches astronomical prices among collectors. The cooling cycle in its body uses ammonia as a refrigerant to chill the moisture it absorbs from the air until it reaches a supercooled state. By then spraying it out of several vents on its belly, the snowflake flutterfly creates a delicate cocoon out of ice to both protect itself and freeze its prey. It rolls up its spherical proboscis, evolved for an upper jaw, and can catch and tie up prey with its fine hairs on its surface. Though it mimics a type of swallowtail butterfly, this creature is actually more closely related to moths. One might extrapolate that it is an ancient ancestor, was unable to adapt to the cool environment and therefore went extinct. Like pikmin, the creeping chrysanthemum is a member of the group of creatures with an arbitrary root structure. This creature is known as a mimic, but because of its actual form of plant, this labels it not entirely acute. It uses its mimicry to lie in wait to ambush prey unrecognized even by pikmin, despite being a member of the same class of organism. It relies on preying upon other creatures to provide sustenance, so it has no need for leaves for photosynthesis. Generally speaking, the role of plants within the ecosystem is to produce a species, and thus plants are generally found at the bottom of the food pyramid. However, on this strange planet, the line between producer plant and consumer plant is blurred. This defining characteristic of this fungi that grows from the head differs from that of the creeping chrysanthemum family. Creeping chrysanthemums but make up the body out of which they grow mostly the same. As a result, we can theorize that, like fellow Asperus, the bulbmin, the species is not an evolutionary variant, but that the body is a parasite that has nested inside a group of mushrooms. Because the host are mushrooms, the stallion spores can't photosynthesize. Instead, it gains nutrients by catching its prey with its highly poisonous fluids, or by absorbing the nectar in the ground left behind by creatures it killed by its poison, decomposed. The adult bread bug competes for many of the same food sources as pikmin, but its thick skin hide allows it to withstand most pikmin groups' attacks. However, some researchers claim to have observed bread bugs being overwhelmed by massive numbers of pikmin and reduced to food. This gargantuan specimen of the greater bread bug family has a torso so perfectly square that it almost seems like it was formed in a mold. For a brief period after birth, the gigantic bread bug competes for food with smaller bread bugs, but upon reaching maturity it seeks out much larger prey. This is the primary reason the two species' similar feeding habits can coexist in the same habitat. Hordes of pikmin appear to pose only the plausible threat to this massive creature's life. Immediately after hatching, the species presents itself into a gladed tadpole-like form and grows its legs after about a week. The juvenile glidemender species is estimated to be about 1 month old due to the presence of the oar-like growth on its back and the fact that it's already emerged onto land. The living oar has substance similar to treasure within it, a particular scent that has the effect of both the sensor and the pikmin. However, the lantern organ on the head is still undeveloped and can only emit a very faint electromagnetic wave. For this reason, juvenile glidermods often hide out of sight to avoid pikmin attacks. The oar-like growths on its back have colligated the body fluids. The oar-like growths on its back is a congealed body fluid that it produces a substance similar to sparkium, which can make our mechanical senses go berserk. To use the technical term, the living oar emits a scent that lures creature prey, so that it's almost important for their feeding process. It's also important for their breeding process. The lantern-like organ atop their head emits an electromagnetic wave that is known to affect pikmin and olimar, confusing them into thinking that the guildmaster is their leader, allowing it to withdraw pikmin directly from the onion. However, it can't go so far as to command them as a squad, so the pikmin will often hide under cover and are able to avoid ingestion. Immediately after birth, the specimen's skin starts to harden, and before long it reaches the same impenetrable toughness as an adult. Adult snoot whackers dexterous use of the trunks to grab food from high tree branches, but juveniles consume the fruit and nuts that have fallen to the ground, as well as other types of terrestrial fauna. The species' legs and torso muscles are underdeveloped compared to those of their nose, so they lack the strength to maintain their posture and easily lose their balance. The long nose on this specimen has neither bone nor cartilage, but is made entirely of muscle, and can be flexible and curved and extended. Its tough hide consists of densely layered collagenous lattices that cover almost the entire body length, leaving only regular skin on the belly exposed. The fully developed trunk is large and quite heavy, so the mammoth snoot whacker usually rolls it inwards to carry it close to the center of its gravity, but if its territory is invaded, it will extend its trunk and flail it around, even using it to strike a perceived enemy. Just like the juvenile snoot whacker, the nose comprises a disproportional amount of the body weight, resulting in poor balance if attacked from behind or from the side. Even an adult of the species is easily knocked over. I wouldn't say easily. Let's just check, though, whether it actually is easily knocked over. See, that's not easy. Maybe it takes one directly to the ass, maybe it'll knock it over. No, it still takes 2 hits every time. a type of primitive organism called a photolisk. In its juvenile state, it has a skeleton like the structure called of a nitrochord. It flaps its fan tail to move and lives with other creatures within other creatures' eggs as it grows. As its body develops, it starts to exhibit musculid-like qualities, but its highly exposed external stomach can directly digest prey on contact and can also use as a locomotion. A member of the Gulix family, this primitive life form is made up of a single cell, which is oddly given its size. Its nucleus is shaped like a bulbous star, and individuals move using a fin at the end of its flagellum-like tail to quickly expand and contract its gelatinous body. If the nucleus is removed, the soft body loses all structure and splatters, but as long as the nucleus stays alive, the thorax can return to its original form. Usually the thorax will mimic nectar, waiting for its prey. Its gel, which includes fire-extinguishing liquids, will then expand and capture and feed on the unexpected organism. Due to a common phenomenon known as imprinting, this baby will recognize anything that it sees or hears within a given length of time after hatching as its parents, and consequently follow them around. However, the downy sagna has two specific conditions for imprinting. The first is that the target must be tall and blue, and the second is relative to the sound of its cry. This means that it will never make the mistake with something as small as we are and will instead recognize us as food. Since it is still a fledgling, the downy snag rat does not go underground to feed. Instead, it stays on the surface. There are plenty of food. Where there's plenty of food, it looks harmless enough, but beware, its parents may be hiding nearby until the baby is old enough to fend for itself. The majority of snag rat species lie in wait to ambush and capture prey, with its body type perfectly adapted for such sudden strikes. It violently attacks small surface-dwelling insects. Distributed across the relatively large range, subspecies of snag rats suited to varying soil conditions have been emerging, making the snag rat the most geologically representative species beside the bulborb. Visually resembling a burrowing snag rat is the snag rat's snarrow. The range at which practically overlaps with the snag rat's range. While the two may appear similar, when pulled from the ground they can be distinguished by their presence or absence of a tail and wing markings. Its overdeveloped respiratory muscle allow it to suck in large volumes of air. Through its long, thick beak for feeding. Its feathers are too small to use for flying. The current theory is that this is due to a niche position in the ecosystem being quite secured thanks to the lack of natural predators and lack of little competition for food in its habitat. However, with the expansion of pikmin territory recently, its numbers have recently generally been declining. Relative to the bivalves, it uses its internal muscles to dexterously manipulate its upper and lower shell. The ability allows it to squish eggs and small herbaceous creatures like pikmin, thus returning nectar to the ground that then feeds off the microorganisms and moss that benefits from the nectar. To further facilitate the growth of food, the scorch cake will secrete oils from its body through its shell and onto the ground. It then sets the area on fire, perhaps as a way to improve soil fertility. The species has a muscular organ that creates an electricity, but using ions generated with densely layered rows of electric generating cells, which are arranged in a asymmetrical series. It uses its plug-like preposterous to immediately shock its prey and then squish it. The squished prey act as a fertilizer, improving the quality of the soil so that the microorganisms and moss that the shock cake feeds on can thrive. By emitting frigid air from the one side of the shell, it can freeze and squish any prey that approaches too closely. Food can be hard to find in extremely cold climates, so one theory is that this species has developed some kind of mechanism that allows it to store prey for long periods of time. A type of ambifungus. The current working theory is that the puff stool evolved from more common species of fungus that gained ammo-like characteristics over time, including the ability to walk. When it senses danger, it will scatter spores from under its cap, releasing a hallucinogenic effect that confuses its attacker. The hallucinogenic compound in the spores is only effective against the species native to natural enemies, the pikmin, causing them to mistake it for their leader. Pikmin who fall into this trap are then used as workers to maintain nutrients or defense for the puff stool. Much like the puff stool, the toxostool is neither an animal nor a fungus, but a mix of the two. Or an ambifungus, it does not serve as a producer nor a consumer role in the ecosystem, but functions instead as a decomposer. It primarily parasitizes off other living organisms by blanketing them with spores. However, the toxic stool can infect deceased specimens as well. It's hypothesized that it's able to move the muscles and control the body as if being back from the dead. The way the fungal filaments grow differs based on the host organism. In some cases, they may cause the host to wander around in search of food to facilitate the nutrient-rich fungal culture medium. They can also just be hosts as means to scatter more spores. This is an example of a young bulb body that has been infected by a fungal filament. Now a host, it unconsciously continues to seek out and ingest food, all the while scattering large amounts of spores out of the spore sac on its back until it can no longer move. After a host body activity ceases, the specimen mutates into a fungal culture that will eventually become a juvenile toxostool. Both the nervous system and slime-producing organ of the specimen have been invaded by fungal filaments, which is why it scatters spores as it moves. It will also shake spores on other creatures, thus infecting new hosts and expanding the toxostool's habitat and range. Once the host body ceases function, it will no longer serve as a fungal culture medium, but its body fluids dry up and corpse shrinks. At this point, a host body is abandoned. A specimen of terrestrial snails coated in a flaming mucus instead of a traditional shell. The creature stays lubricated through the constant secretion of mucus so that the fires never reach its skin. The most fascinating aspect of these creatures is the instinctive ability to avoid causing widespread fires by carelessly brushing plants. The hairs covering the face work as a competitor. It charges electricity by rubbing the hairs to build up static, then discharges it at enemies intruding on its territory. The more territorial and aggressive, attacking only when threatened, rather than to hunt prey. It has several qualities unique to the ecosystem, such as breastfeeding its young, which may someday give rise to a whole new taxidermy of fauna here. The inhabitants of the imbalance of the asthma's arm of the Mamuda are among its most notable features. Feeding on seeds and fruit, the Mamuda is known to actively sow and grow plant species. While other species have exhibited seed-burying behaviors for the purpose of storage, the Mamuda is the only species so far known to actively cultivate fields of plants. Its needles-covered armor is soft and and quite exposited. Furthermore, it has a cowardly distribution, so when it senses even the slightest danger, it will shoot out its spines. Regenerating new spines requires significant amount of calorie energy, so the creature requires significant amounts of food. This likely explains why, when it scurries through the garbage, it sucks up not just the insects it finds, but also the trash itself. They have ingested a few of the SS Dolphin parts too, but those could never have been mistaken for trash. This floating life form drifts effortlessly on the winds. Upon death, its physical structure immediately collapses, as the creature is partially elusive and difficult to capture. No samples of the specimen have been acquired as of yet. If we could simply recover a live sample, research on the species would proceed more smoothly. The species of blowhog uses its internal generated hydrogen to inflate its floating bladder and hover above the ground. This creature's electrified pulse creates a sash of colour that flows along the surface of its body, making it practically beautiful species in the blowhog family. Precisely how it's able to stabilize the highly explosive hydrogen and sustain generated electricity remains a mystery. The puffy blowhog blows and leaves and grasses around and eats the insects underneath. It maintains mid-air buoyancy by using the fins and releasing air through its blowholes. This enables it to float effortlessly in the breeze. This creature possesses 3 lungs, an air sac used as a primary respiratory organ, a flotation bladder that gives it buoyancy, and a cold sac to store cold air. Like the puffy blowhog, its buoyancy is a result of hydrogen produced by electrolysis. Its icy breath is considered carbon dioxide, much like the snowy blowhog. Different species from the blowhog family have many features in common. When you look closely at the structures and characteristics of their internal organs, the wyvern blowhog is a close relative of the puffy blowhog, but its breath is significantly weaker. However, its breath does contain a petal wilting withering plant hormone that causes flowers to instantly lose their petals. Although its breath has not been studied in detail, analysis of the chemical compound involves holding great promise for biotech sensors. This native jellyfort is indigenous to the region. Unfortunately, it is currently endangered as its habitat has been overwhelmed by hostile invasive species. Vivid pink coloration is most noticeable characteristic of this floating lifeform. This invasive species is not native to the region, having appeared to have recently arrived on wind currents. The luminous organ on top of its head attracts prey, which it sucks up and consumes with its lower orifice. Unlike jellyfish, the jelly float's tentacles do not have pneumotestics, so are no danger to touching them. The yellow wollyhog spawns in the early springs, laying eggs in low-hanging tree branches and sheer grubs growing near the lake and ponds. Such unorthodox amphibious behavior is a defense mechanism, protecting the eggs from predation by blue pikmin and water dumples. The wollyhop's wild hopping near the shoreline in the early spring is thought to be a method of driving predators away from the wollypole eggs. This magnificent specimen has a remarkably bright coloration compared to the rest of the amphibious family, as well as 3 lateral spots. The species seems to have lost some swimming proficiency with the evolutionary adaptation of greater jumping abilities. The yellow wollywog inhabits the aquatic shallows and shows an instinctive drive to jump upon and squash smaller creatures. It is believed that juvenile wollyhops were once carried by underground currents into caverns, where they thrived in the dark habitat. This triological species of wollywog coloration results from generations of cave dwelling and lack of sunlight. Competitive comparative differences between the size and shape of this wollywog and other species are thought to have resulted in the natural selection at work, which the traits better suited for life in subterranean environments. When squishing prey with its mighty leap, the chillywog secretes a body fluid made up of ammonium nitrate, urea, and water. This causes a epidemic reaction and rapidly freezes the prey, making its attacks more lethal. After squishing the prey, it gets sucked up through the chili hop's belly. Since the species can store its food in slightly chilled state without eating it for a while, it easily adapts to the environment where prey is scarce. It is widely believed that the yellow wollywog and other relative species can continue to grow until they start breeding, but after that their growth rate plummets. However, in a safe environment, one that lacks natural predators, for example, some individuals of the species may forgo reproduction altogether and continue to grow until they reach gigantic proportions. The yellow wollywog's tolerant design are particularly active, which prevent the body cells from aging. Under the right conditions, it's not unusual for the individuals to reach over 50 years of age. A resident of freshwater pools and marshes, this aquatic creature regularly feeds on insects that land on the surface of the water. It shares near the identical skeletal structure with its close relatives and terrestrial cousin, the bulbob. They may offer clues to the evolutionary origin and suggest that only recently emerged from its aquatic habitat. Many assume that it's underdeveloped due to its large eyes and lack of fins, but this is simply normal. Its fully grown form, though its dorsal and ventral fins have atrophied, the long caudal fin helps compensate for this. It can leap high enough out of the water to catch low-flying prey, and scales comprised around the patches along the sides are known to turn light pink during the breeding season. Its hidden spikes evolved from scales that were once on the forehead. The prickly puff uses them to charge and chase off unknown creatures that enter its territory. Its liver and ovaries contain powerful nerve toxins accumulated from ingesting shellfish and algae with trace amounts of poison. These toxins do not function as an alternative pheromone, but also seem to keep predators at bay. However, once it is dead, the pikmin have no issue carrying the creature back to the onion, where the poison is broken down into valuable nutrients. Its eyes and stubby feet make it look like an octopus, hence the name, but it's close anatomy to a starfish. It sleeps during the day, but will stay alert for approaching predators, which it drives off by puffing itself up and releasing bubbles. Closer research suggests that the true purpose of the bubbles is to protect its eggs during the spawning season. A juvenile peckish aristocrab. Small in size, its right pincer is half grown. Because of this, it often hunts by hiding underground and lying in wait to ambush prey. Generally, the crab passes through larval stage, Zomara and Magnoria as they approach juvenile crabhood. Instead, the peckish aristocrab is born with a body shaped like an onion, absorbing the nutrients through the ground and sprouting legs as it grows. Perhaps it is a close relative of the species in the Astrocrus class. Its unnaturally large claw is used for catching prey, for self-defense, and most surprisingly for mating calls. Most aspects of the astrocrab's life revolve around it, which may explain why it becomes fearful and docile when its claw is damaged. It would also account for the claw's remarkable regenerative capabilities, which can restore itself completely in a single night. It is also known to blow bubbles when under attack, but this is a result of it venting from the wrong discharge valve when under extreme stress. This bipedal creature walks upright, so its motion is noticeably slow, but the long reach of its pincers is useful for catching prey and tossing it into its wide mouth on top of its head. When young, the mouth stays closed, and the grub chucker lives on things like shellfish and nuts and fruits, eaten using small trophy located behind the feelers below the eyes. As it grows, its septical mouth opens and can start eating large quantities of food. It has few natural enemies, primarily due to the height. However, it is often found in dimmer wetlands or underground to protect its soft top or shell from the sun rays. Looking at the eyes and sickle-shaped legs characterized of these squillers, one would think that the squiller relatives, in fact, it's a relative of the hermit crab. The species, however, has migrated from the seaside life in a shell and instead inhabits burrows in the ground, where its legs appear sickle-like. They are pincers that have evolved into a fin shape. The beast feeds on small creatures that pass by its lair, dragging them inside to eat them. Like its cousin, the hermit crab cormorant, it makes its home in burrows rather than shells. It has abnormally overly developed eyes, which to detect prey in cloudy water or low visibility mud. These enormous eyes can perceive circular polarization light as well as the ultraviolet and infrared spectrum. It is well protected from predators, allowing it to live upwards for 50 years and grow to immense size by repeated estrolias. Its body is covered with a hard carapace and has an extremely fierce personality. It spreads its sharp fangs jaws to catch prey. The crushing rumpant suffers from poor vision, but it uses its fine hairs on its lower part of its tail and the ball-shaped sensory organ at the tip to detect faint quadroelectric fields emitted by other organisms. In short, it has other ways of sensing its predators and prey. Using the pearl that has taken shape inside its body as bait, this creature lures prey into the interior and traps it with its shell to feed. Well, it's also worth noting that the pearl may just be a amalgamation of outside materials wrapped into a viscous gelatinous exterior. On the frequent occasions when it can't gather a food for itself, this creature can also obtain nutrients when the symbiotic algae within its body photosynthesize. For this reason, it can often be found with its mouth open on the shorelines of sandy beaches to get a lot of sunlight. The species of creature has yet to complete its evolution from a bulb-cap oyster to the more advanced Rangan oyster. Compared to the latter, this creature is substantially smaller. The fact that its mandibles do not protrude as significantly as the radium oyster is due to the fact that, like most mollusks, its vital organs are located deep within the creature's carapace. The flower-like appendage on its back is actually a gill. It prefers a watery habitat from which it can capture unsuspecting small prey with its sticky tendrils. The original species from which this raging tawny oyster evolved is still carries a large shell on its back. The exposed head and legs are covered by layers of tough mucus, so it barely moves even when attacked. On the other hand, its extremely sensitive flower-like gill that are characterized by the molluscan family. When the gills are touched, the oyster can't breathe and must open its shell, exposing the soft body. Amphibious and gentle demeanor, it simply swallows up anything that happens to enter its field of vision, kind of like a living vacuum cleaner. The species prefers to inhabit cloudy, stagnant water like that of swamps. It spends most of its time buried in the mud and hiding, using its 6 eye-like sensory organs It can detect minute movements in the water and vibrations on nearby land. It will then forcefully leap out of the water and suck up its prey to feed. With its entirely collagenous skeleton and somewhat primitive features, it looks like a round chinless mouth. It appears to be some sort of primeval creature. All that is known about this creature stems from the few sightings deep underground. All reports of the sightings feature the same core set of details. A giant viscous form with a clear hazy sheen, not unlike that of hard candy. One theory holds that it may be the etrified incarnation of a kind of physical phenomenon, but it's usually the case with such theories. It is very difficult to prove. All witnesses report being suddenly overcome by fear upon sighting the creature approaching a state of panic, and near instantly. In fact, every report consists of inordinate amounts of extremely vague details, which have led to suspicions that exhilaration and fear have caused some simple natural phenomenon to be viewed as a living creature. The smoky prog's body is constantly deteriorating, so collecting a living sample has proven difficult, and research into the species has progressed at a glacial rate. However, by examining the genes adherent to the smoky prog egg, it has been confirmed that they are in fact a mamuta egg. This discovery allows for possibility that the mamuta that do not develop properly and hatch become smoky progs. If hypothetically a mamuta were to remain above ground at night and absorb glow snap, that might impact the nutritional levels within the egg yolk. This change could lead to the embryos individually or break down its enzymes. Then maybe. So what you're saying is that the smoky prog is created by the fucking glow pikmin. Why they have to be such a piece of shit. Either it's saying that like the glow pikmin create the smoky prog, or it's the fact that Mudas need the glow pikmin to actually hatch properly. But I'm pretty sure it's saying that they cause the fucking smoky progs to occur. If we harvest mescarium stem cells from this gigantic canine creature and cultivate them with glow sap, the general serum should return Ochi's leafy tail to normal once administered. These results indicate a 99.9% of canine creatures' DNA match with Ochi's, and that the only difference between Ochi and Moss may be the natural presence or absence of a leafy tail. If these two theories prove to be true, I would suggest that there's a possibility that this ancient creature is a common ancestor to the two canine species from vastly remote star systems, and that perhaps there are even more hidden secrets out there that could hint at a fascinating yet incomprehensible truth the universe has yet to reveal. As far as I can tell, Moss has been a leafling since pup. Since birth, and some of her DNA resembles that of a pikmin. This is one point in which she differs from Ochi. When Ochi transformed from a standard space bog into a leafling pup, I started to theorize that the pikmin are in some capacity propagating their DNA in other organisms. The phenomenon is in which all those castaways, including myself, became leaflings was very likely caused by being absorbed into an onion. Perhaps the process was also some sort of pikmin infection of the body. Pikminified organisms can't leave the planet, so the pikmin may have been motivated to carry out this process in an effort to secure a permanent leader. Of course, this is all a theory. A game theory! But yeah, the Yeah, a bit weird though, because then there's that Pikmin game, what was it called again? Hey Pikmin, like, it's on a different planet though, so it just doesn't break that law. Pikmin are part of a Aurorus class, which consists of creatures that exhibit both plant and animal characteristics. A Pikmin with instinctively follow whoever plucks them from the ground, so it's quite common for them to form symbiotic relationships with another species or accept a leader of a different species, as it serves their goal to procreate their own species as a whole. The red Pikmin is the most common Pikmin species. It can be identified by its nose-like protrusion on its head and its highly aggressive behavior. It also, quite surprisingly, has a unique quality. For example, it is immune to extreme heat and fire. Despite the fact that it is a living organism, this can be explained by looking closely at the skin and muscle fibers, which are made up of fire-resistant cellulose. It is generally believed that the Pikmin's bodies were originally the root of the plant that has evolved over centuries, if not millennium, to develop into structure analogous to muscles' natural networks, similar to those of the brain and more. However, yellow Pikmin possess a perfect resistance to electricity, a force which actually possesses extreme danger to other good organisms. Oddly enough, this species of Pikmin actually seems to enjoy electricity. Their flowers bloom when they are exposed to electric currents. This fact would lead one to believe that the natural transmission methods are quite different from our own. The species often uses their ear-like lemon on their head to soar at great heights and dig holes. The accepted theory is that Pikmin evolved from terrestrial root vegetables, and so that they would be unable to breathe underwater and subsequently drown. Yet the blue Pikmin possess gill-like resemblance of a mouth on their head, which enables them to be active underwater, while on land, the leaf and flower like other Pikmin species, and they breathe through the stemma on their skin, inducing that they must be naturally amphibious. Pigment proteins on the surface of their bodies essentially perform the same photosynthetic process as cyanobacteria, for example, which is what gives them their striking colour. This species is definitely a member of the Pikmin genus, but its body does not share any of the plant-like traits that Pikmin are known for. Instead, it composed primarily of stone. The stone is actually a chosen host for a parasitic subset of Pikmin species called Hermakin. Similar to how the seeds can sprout and push through the cracks of a rock, the Pikmin's roots stretch deep into the stone, storing its vital organs in the interior crevice and reassembling the crystalline geode. But the species display characteristics common in parasitism. One could hypothesize that rock onions and rock candy buds stockpile stones that they will eventually host rock Pikmin. The wings on the back of the flying Pikmin species closely resemble the wings that you would find on flying creatures. It is possible that the ancient winged onion somehow absorbed a flying creature's DNA, which resulted in the precursors to winged Pikmin transforming into a species we recognize today. If this theory is correct, the onion might also serve the role of messenger, transmitting the new traits and characteristics to their Pikmin. Pikmin supposedly evolved from plants, and yet there's also a Pikmin species with a body made of ice, known as the Ice Pikmin. However, it is possible. The answer to the question lies in the fact that the Ice Pikmin are parasitic by nature, and that the ice serves as their host. The composition of this type of ice is predictably mostly water, but it resembles saline solution with faint concentration traces of sodium ions, phosphorus ions, and calcium ions that function as natural transmitters. Interestingly, the ice exhibits no visual signs of melting or dripping when exposed to sunlight. This is due to the low temperature core, which continuously creates more ice in order to maintain the constant size. White Pikmin are born through a colour changing process within the white candy bud bot, which only grows underground. The poison which is in the body is typical of detropine alkaline similar to the toxin often found in certain plant roots. If ingested, it can lead to vomiting, respiratory distress, and complete organ failure, ultimately resulting in death due to cardiac arrest. Though strong, the poison also has medical uses, sometimes going by the name aconine. The pikmin are ambulocean and evolved from plants, but it seems that some species retain more of their plant-based evolutionary heritage than others. Slightly larger in size, purple pikmin weigh up to 10 times more than other pikmin species, and when thrown to the ground, their impacts create gravitational waves that can actually warp space-time. It's astonishing. The density of their muscle fiber is also much higher than other pikmin, allowing them to transport 10 times as much weight as their average size counterparts. Their rich purple color is derived from a strong polarous antitoxin. Like the white pikmin, they are born from underground candy buds, and no relative onions have been discovered so far. But I think somewhat underground, deep among the relics of the past, the purple onion is waiting to be discovered, and so it was. Sometimes it lies dormant, much like a bulb, but dig it up from the ground and provide it with the right stimulus, for example a good hard shake, and it will activate, sprouting free root-like legs. It serves a similar role to a nest or an incubator for pikmin, absorbing pellets and bodies of dead creatures for the nutritional value and then procreating pikmin of the same colour as itself. Onions also seem to be greedily adept at replicating certain characteristics of the materials they absorb by combining others or absorbing other onions, sometimes of the same type. It's been confirmed that just like pikmin, an onion has muscle fibers in its body, and though it's unable to walk, it's capable of small range motion. However, when one breaks down the biological matter it has absorbed, a fuel similar to biofol is created. Onions spray this fuel out of the mouth on the underbellies and are able to fly using their flower-like propellers for stabilization. While it doesn't sprout or create pikmin, this species is still a type of onion. A bulb like this one can be divided into 7 segments. It's highly nutritious, dense, and contains strong energizing uptones effects. The components responsible for the characteristic smell resemble onion growth hormones. When absorbed by an onion, it fulfills a crucial role in pikmin propagation by increasing the total number of pikmin that can be withdrawn from the onion at any given time. Just like an onion, it contains muscle fibers, but the frolic has no animalistic qualities to speak of. However, if you place one near an onion, it may start to move a bit, as though it's trying to roll over so it can get absorbed. What looks like the interior of a flower is actually an insectivorous leaf that developed into an organ. The organ releases a sweet scent from the central pestle, luring in small insects into the interior and trapping them. The DNA of these captured organisms is directly absorbed into the plant cells, which might indicate that this species is attempting to evolve and at astounding speed, but in most cases the cells express self-destruction. The bud then releases pikmin seeds of the same colour, and the plant withers. Muscle fibers extremely similar to those of an onion were found in the subspecies, so one can only hypothesize that candybud buds is underdeveloped onion. However, there ain't enough details to confirm this theory either way. In the stem of a pellet posy, one can observe the muscle fibers unique to the half-plant, half-animal species such as pikmin and candybud bud flowers, so pellet posies is a subspecies that can be considered a close relative. Although their ability to crystallize nectar is unique to a small group of pellet posy weed family, the fact that these plants rematch maturity so quick and that their pellets contain such high concentrations of natural nutrients in the soil explains why the pikmin and so many other native species are so reliant on these pellets for sustenance. Like pellet posies, the nectar is a primary source of nutrients. The Bergmann spiderwort produces fruits with high amounts of super spicy compound. Both this plant and the pellet posies are part of the pelletweed family, but spiderwort does not crystallize nectar because of a different fungi that parasitizes its roots. Instead, it produces alkaloids that contain those extra pigment components. The alkaloids are then extracted and collected by way of the plant's fruits. Whether or not this plant produces super spicy or super sweet compounds seems to depend on the type of fungi within which it reacts. Although they've been named glow pikmin, I'm not entirely clear whether or not it's actually a type of pikmin. These creatures possess the same fundamental behavior as pikmin, like carrying things, propagating and fighting. They also share special characteristics such as leaves atop their head, and yet they do not spawn from onions, but luminoles, and they are only active at night or underground during the day. They revert to their seeds and enter a resting state when, even more surprisingly, is that they exhibit no sign of life. When a glow pikmin dies, if the word can even be used for it, it does not expire in the typical sense. Instead, it just becomes a form of light, or perhaps a photon, and returns to the luminol. Putting aside my scientist hat for a moment, it seems to me that this creature or entity may not be a living organism at all, but some manner of spiritual substance. Besides the fact that they serve as an incubator and nest for the glow pikmin, we know little about the luminol ecology. When naturally creatures die, a luminol can break them down into a glow pellet. Though it is strongly dissolving enzyme, when condensed becomes glow sap. One might assume that glow sap is an extremely dangerous substance, but it has hardly any negative effects. In fact, I've had it administered to me personally, and as a curative medicine to break down growing leaves. Luminols will only appear in a place where onions was located earlier in the day, and since they propagate, glow pikmin 1 can only summarize that they are reionized from those onions. Perhaps using its dissolved powers, it can return the nectar that supports the ecosystem back to the soil. Whew, fuck. We're almost done now. At least Louis' ones are usually shorter. For a blissful banquet, mince the entire beast finely and stir it into a heavenly cream. Artfully choke hearts and pinch of black pepper. Eat slowly until piping hot, rich and creamy. Peel off the skin starting at the tail end, then slice thinly and boil in a pot of heavily salted water. Serve immediately. Plum specimens are best spit roasted, whole, stuffed with lime and slabs of bacon. Stay frequently to ensure the magnificently moist haunch. It's a large creature, but the meat is tender and flavorful. It's impossible to eat in one sitting, so store some portions for later. Coat the fattier meat in cooking oil and freeze. Leaner cuts should be smoked. Although difficult to prepare, this exquisite creature is more than worth the effort. Great and in fanjuice. This bulbor's meaty flanks make for a deliciously savoury steak that should not be missed. Remove the innards, stuff with sage, and finely age prosciutto, and broil until golden brown, the ultimate crowd pleaser. For an unrivaled green curry, peel away the spotty bulbob skin, pulverize the juicy innards, and stew until curiously fragrant. A sweet and savoury meat that pairs well with the simple green salad. Sear the rich and fatty meat off the bottom sides in a dap of butter, then sprinkle generously with fresh thyme. For those who prefer leaner cuts, I recommend the tip of the nose. No stove, no problem. This sizzling beastie practically cooks itself. Remember to thoroughly extinguish the steaks prior to eating. Pat the tongue dry, then coat all sides with spicy dry rub, or choose to grill over a high heat until outside is preferably crispy. This meager creature offers little meat, but its eyeballs are a local delicacy. Try them with okra and doppel of sour cream. For a sophisticated delicacy, make a pâté de foie gras from the massive, obscene creature's liver and spread it over a sesame cracker. To prep the tongue for cooking, marinate in olive oil and chop it into cubes. Stir in a pot with carrots, potatoes, and chives, and cover and simmer over a low heat for several hours, accompanied by a mouth-watering rustic stew for hearty rolls. For a light appetizer, pluck the ferns off the back and lightly cook to remove any astringent flavors. The tongue, eyes, lips, meat, and fat are all tasty and can be prepared in various ways. Mature specimens have more highly developed umarian flavor. Roast this flavorful beast for several hours, letting it stew in its own succulent juices. Do not worry about overcooking this beast. It's TV went dumb. Scorch proof. This beast's unrivaled moisture gives it a melt in the mouth quality that is incomparable. Sprinkle lightly with salt and eat while the ice bag is still fresh and crunchy. Just one bite will give you the most satisfying brain freeze. Creature too large to easily carve. Bigger is not better in this case. Scrape the innards of its elongated nose with a spoon for a quick dessert of meaty shaved ice. Add a drizzle of chimichurri sauce to take it up a notch. Stew with root vegetables, wild greens, and a bit of moist for a mouth-watering rustic flavour. Drain all blood beforehand to avoid the grimy smell. Carefully remove every grain of sand, peel back the exoskeleton and slurp heartily, or deep fry it too. Drop in boiling water and let it cook until its shell turns red. Remove from the pot and peel. Sprinkle the dried meat with rock salt. Peel back the shell and sprinkle the tender meat with a dash of salt before slurping it up raw for a refreshing dessert. Pour fruit juice over the snowballs. Boil the meaty legs until fully cooked, then drizzle with a generous amount of lemon sauce. Once the juice has seeped its way into the muscle fibers, suck up the meat out of the shell with one big slurp. For an unforgettable croissant, slice this creature up and mix it with 4 eggs, 2 vine-ripe tomatoes, diced zenchi, generous handfuls of feta and Swiss. Bake until crusty gold. This beastie is most flavorful if caught and cooked just after laying eggs. Spread several specimens into the bottom of the casserole dish. Layer with a slice of avocado and top with a cheese. Bake until the meat is cooked through and the cheese is lusciously brown. Best enjoyed with a big round and full of eggs. Salt lightly and then grill. Then squish the sticky mouth feeler. Will have you coming back for more. Gratte the beast into a zeste, and then whisk with sugar, cream, and chopped dark chocolate for a luscious, indulgent mousse that truly culinary cupagarate. Salty, savour, and somehow sweet. The flavour changes depending on which living creature it fed from recently. Boil in the shell with a pinch of salt until bright red, then serve piping hot with a tartar sauce. Remove shell, roast over a low flame, and then grind the meat. Whisk the pâté into olive oil until emulsified. An extra dish of Comarim lends some earthiness to the spicy salad dressing. Remove the wings, marinate well marbled steak for several hours in a chapelot marinade, then charboil to protect perfection. The superb amalgam of juice and meat, this leafy green ensures that the skittering leaf will be the new spinach. No preparation needed to enjoy this flavourless sunbeast. Just naturally crunch give away an intriguing mouthful. The search for the gourmet highest protein salad topping alternative to bacon bits is over. Grind the spicy dweevil into tasty minced micro chunks, then toss them generously over your salad to add instant flair and flavour. Raw and no dweevil makes for an unforgettable sushi treat, but it is not prepared by an expert hand with extra precision, consumption will result in jolting electrical explosions of apocalyptic proportions. Inedible. Effects of consumption include uncontrollable arm flailing and enthusiastic dishwashing. Soak the legs in fruit juice and freeze. Serve as a refreshing ice pop. Exposed to even extreme heat doesn't seem to rid this creature of the deposits of potent gases. It's probably best for everyone if you avoid eating this hazardous fare. Pluck off the legs, crack open a savoury the meat inside, dip them in soy sauce first and then mint for a nice mix of sweet and salty. Not as tasty as it looks, completely inedible. Although the meat is a bit on the metallic side, the oil makes a mouth-watering gravy and lubricative vinaigrette. This creature is mostly tendon, so it often gets stuck in your teeth. Smells like burnt plastic, or probably metal. Drain the electricity charge before boiling, although it is probably possible to eat an anode beetle while it's charged. Doing so may result in unpleasant tingling sensations. An essential flavour acquisited ingredient in gubra and jubilee. Also delicious in soup, broths and marinades. Looking for flavour that will surprise and delight your guests? This beast's aroma may surprise your guests, but it won't be delightful. This precious treat is exceptionally rare. I could sell it back home for a fortune. Then I could use the cash to upgrade my kitchen, buy galactic class ingredients, and even stir my own cooking show, the Insect Gourmet. Flesh fry with garlic and red chives in a hot pan, then sprinkle with a grated gorgonzola. Some dinner guests may find the legs unappealing, so it's best to remove them before serving. An acquired taste, but quite addictive one once you get used to it. No special preparation necessary. The extremities can't be used for food, but you can drink the liquid inside this yeasty beverage. Even after draining the muck, its texture remains gritty. Chew it for long enough and your teeth will need a good scrubbing. Remove the wings and drop straight into the deep fryer. Cook until golden or until enticing aromas start to sting your eyes. Serve immediately. For a taste appetizer, dip the wings into butter and fry. Can also be used to season stews and soups. Remember to first remove the bitter innards. Spread larvae on a slice of toast for a spicy and potent packed breakfast, or fry up the wings at any time of day for a sweet and crunchy snack. Dice finely or puree to make a meaty sorbet. Add a tiny drizzle of fruit sauce for some punch. Pluck the wings and antennae beforehand to use as a garnish if you want to get fancy. When thinly sliced, this predator's sizable bulb makes a quite scrumptious pizza topping. If you can successfully remove the tongue poison gland, you can enjoy a rare opportunity to appreciate the umami synergy of the mushroom and meat combo. Breadbugs are hearty and nutritious, but also bland and unimaginative. They may be palatable in a pinch, but they hold no true culinary promise. Although cooking this colossal beastie yields a mountain of meat, every ounce of it is flavourless. Only substance for intolerable all-you-can-get buffet. Heat the golden crystals on the back until they melt into a caramel sauce. Flip the creature upside down and bake until the skin delivers a crunchy candelé crust. The meat gives off a faint aroma similar to a hot pepper. The flavour itself is subtle and elegant. Char grill the lantern until blackened, and you've got yourself a nutritious superfood. Gently peel the skin from the nose and its meat as a grassy bitterness. Tastes like cucumber. The bitter flavour fades as they grow, replaced with a sweet, mellow aroma. Stew the base of the trunk, grill the middle, or smoke the tip. The possibilities are endless. Season with salt and pepper. Gently remove the jelly-filled parts, add fruit and sweetener of your choice, then serve as a garnished dessert. Grind up the meat and cartilage, then mold into meatballs. The tender texture of the meat contrasts nicely with the crunchy chewiness of the cartilage bits. Slice and separate the torso and thin melon. Skewer on a meat rod with a hocotate onion and barbecue over an open flame. Breasts, thighs, and wings can be baked, roasted, or fried. The rest of the carcass is great for flavour in a rich soup stock. Remove the internal meat and place directly onto the shell while it's still smouldering to cook it. Almost smells better than it tastes. Saute in butter and cover with a sauce made of green liver paste. Anyone with a highly developed palate will enjoy the slightly bitter flavour palette. The meat under the icy side of the shell is quite muscular, while the other side is nice and fatty. Two great tastes in one. Flip upside down and cook cap over charcoal grill. Low and slow. Once it starts to sweat, it's ready to eat. Bury underground for about 40 days so that the poison can leach out. Its smell will make you gag, but the flavour has notes of chocolate. Tastes best if eaten just before the meat spoils. Once all the mould has been removed, enjoy your unique flavour rescue of a dried aged meat. After removing the poison, the broth is fragrant and savoury. Do not drink too much or you'll find yourself with a crippling stomachache. Remove the tongue and discard the rest. Cook over a char grill until medium rare. Pan roast the thighs with a sprig of rosemary and the whole garlic clove. Finish and squeeze a fruit juice to highlight the subtle notes of the lingering electrocution. Inedible, tastes like chicken. Cut the meat into 4 even slices. Dip the slices into beat egg, then dredge the breadcrumbs. Fry over a low heat. Although the eggs are small, the yolk has a distinct bold and tangy flavour. Try tossing a few in the pan along with your choice of meat and fresh vegetables and cook up a country scramble. Slice the creature's feather-light skin into triangles. Deep fry until crispy. and salt generously makes the perfect scoop and chip to accompany fresh mango salsa. Has a consistency of candy-coated chewing gum and leaves a refreshing menthol aftertaste. Hang this creature on a rack and sun-dry on a hot afternoon. When subtly crisped, grind the sun-dried breast into a powder. Makes a great substitute for carroning or curry powder. Similar in taste and texture to gelatin, this jiggly mass of jelly can be sculpted into any kind of creative shape. As a bonus, it also doubles as professional grade hair gel. It's the perfect cool summer treat. Like a fine cheese, the aroma of this fluid floater can be oppressive, but its flavour must be in an experience to be believed. Also makes an unforgettable non-dairy spread. Walpoles can be eaten raw, but they're much more flavourful when steamed grilled. Also heavenly in risotto. Feel free to experiment with this luscious ingredient. Coat in a thick batter and then deep fry for a down-home flavour you won't soon forget. Wollywogs are best ground up sharp, shaped into a pate and flame boiled on a grill. Slap on a tomato slice, lettuce, onions and ketchup, and then slide between two pates of a sesame seed bun for the ultimate beast burger experience. Remove the tender meat surrounding the eyes and stew with a sauté sauce. The collagenous fibres are simply melt in your mouth delicious. Meat can be consumed if first dehydrated with a lot of salt, but the eyeballs and legs are the best parts. Deep fry dumples without batter for all the flavour and half the fat. Slice raw and serve as sumaski. The maple fat gives the dish a deep umami flavour. Remove the poisonous internal organs, then slice thinly and serve as shimashi. The firm meat is brimming with umami flavour, pairs well with the light, refreshing citrus. Perfect for make-ahead meals. Marinate and boil the meat in balsamic vinegar and chill for a few hours. The longer you let it sit, the richer the flavour. Throw a mountain of Arista crabs or spring into a pot for a yummy simple Moscow soup broth. Great for a hot pot, remove the shell and cook the legs in a hot broth. When they turn nice and red, pull them out and slather in liver paste before eating. Pluck off the lips and serve with lemon and salt as an appetizer. Coat the arms and legs with plenty of muscle for a full course dinner in a shell. Shuck from the shell, baked on a high heat until crispy, then dip in a pot of melted milk chocolate, lip smacking sweet. When grilled, served for an excellent fill-in and for an offbeat puller boy. If you have any left over, you can add to the liver paste to deepen the flavour. The tip of the tail tastes almost fruity, with notes of sweet and sour. Paris well with ripened cheese. Heaten the shell over a strong flame to bring out the umami juices. Finely mince and toss with noodles. Top with sesame seeds. Pan-sear with herbs and oil until lightly crusted on the outside and roasted on the inside. Contaminate the savoury flavour with a light and buttery creme sauce. The fatty muscle that controls these undulating motions must be eaten fresh. All the quick movements mean that the meat gets tough quickly. Leave it out overnight to drain the mud from the carcass. When ready to eat, cut into rings, then grill over a heat. The more you chew it, the more flavourful it becomes. Inedible, known to cause mass hysteria. Followed by leg spasms and internal thunderings. Egg tastes best when smoked. The flavour of the belly and the head is pleasantly warming. The ultimate ride. Plush and comfortable. I wish I could bring it home with me. Convenient for procuring ingredients. Compact with a tight turning radius. Looks like a picnic carrot. I bet it tastes good, but I'm practicing self-restraint. When I look at it, I see its ears. All I see is its ears. I look at its mouth and I want to put my hand in it, just to see what would happen. I think I broke a tooth on one of these. Once had a dream that I was abducted by a winged specimen. The kitchen's essential to use for freezing ingredients and storing leftovers. Not meant to be ingested, best used as bait. Very heavy, tenderizing the meat would be way too difficult. If you look closely, you can see the legs are sprouting from a dense layer of hair. Saute in oil and add a fragrant spice to your dish, but eat too much and you'll smell like it for days. Way too spicy for salad, no matter what colour bud you use. On a quest for perfect hosekoma, I slowly cook these plants in wood-fire oven, but be careful to only serve the tender pellets. Dry out the fruit and grind into a fine consistency, perfect for adding a touch of spice. Doesn't smell alive. Smells a lot like an onion. The green juice is particularly delicious. Well, that's that done. How could you possibly pull yourself away? So yeah, we'll just do, like, I'll try and do the thing again.
This is life. Cool too.
Or we could try the other one, which we have got like a low score on. But maybe we can do it this time. It's unlikely. We just need to use the white pikmins for like everything. I think I'm actually just going to send Rochi off to the far end of the map. Like, I'm not even going to like go for like the island. Okay, I will slightly go for the island. Fuck. Like, I think I'm going to just send a Rochi here and hope that he just kills these. Rochi needs to move again. Probably can just call them and they'll probably make it over the water. Please move. Come on. Shit. I'm hoping that getting them flowers will like make them move a little faster. I don't even know what to do now. Shit, I forgot to move the dog. Fuck him. I'm not very good at throwing, am I? Oh, a Orochi's taking the piss. Why is a Orochi taking the piss? Oh my god, I'm gonna fail. I seem to be suffering from a dandori issue. The amount of times I've done that is gonna just cost this thing. Well, fuck, we lost our wing pikmin. Wait a second, I should actually do that first. I'm just really bad at this mission for some reason. Like, this has just gone awfully, like always. I always forget about that. Forgot to swap characters. Why are they just trolling? Great, we lost a pikmin. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, get rid of the fucking mushrooms! Oh my fucking god. Orochi Kirin. Have we got the one over here? Did I forget to put Pikmin on the fucking thing? I think I did. Shit, we've got to do them. I don't know how the fuck we did it this time. Like, I thought I was gonna fail again. Like, I thought I was still suffering from a severe dandori issue. I just need to make sure to keep sending Ochi out. So we did it. We actually didn't suffer from a dandori issue for once. Now we just have to do this one, which I'm probably going to need to learn the layout before I can do it. But we're going to do the same thing, just send Ochi out. I know that we need to get Ochi on top of that cliff as soon as possible. Where's Ochi gonna go? We'll send Ochi into this room. Shit. We need to send Ochi to the next room. Is there any more pikmin? They can't be crushed, so it should be fine anyway. They can't be killed by this. Shit, there was more pikmin.
Papa Hapo. Apa kuma? Apa mo papa? Apa po? Apa?
Oh, fuck's sake.
Apa po?
Shit, we still got those ones.
Apa mo mapa? Kumakapa. Apa po?
Not a dandori issue. I do not suffer from a dandori issue now. I still don't know how the fuck I did that one before, though. Like, I was sure I was going to fail it again, the one with, like, the try I did before. Because I just forgot to put pikmin on building the ramp.
Marmore.
Let's maybe go to grab some time.
Patarope.
Well done. That's, simulation of mine, good, quite good.
Pochko.
Mastering Dandori, the process never ends. Efforts will continue to shape you forever. Well, it's pretty much everything. I just want to do... Oh, what, you got something to say? Goes drifting along through space. We who drifting, flying, floating, falling. How long have I been out here? You know what? I think that's everything I want to do. Like, we've done pretty much everything now. So, that is that. I'm a Dandori master now.